This is the first anti-monopoly case after the country opened up national drug pricing. 5 companies, including 2 from the municipalities of Chongqing and Shanghai, have been ordered to pay fines of 5 to 8% of total sales in 2014. Altogether, that's nearly 4 million yuan or $550,000.
This is the first case of a monopoly agreement we have investigated in the medicine sector. The value of this case itself is not significant, but it's typical. Not only was it horizontal, but there was action inclusion with the negotiation pricing problem, as well as division sales area and the issue of market division.
The pricing of drugs in China has become plagued with many big scandals. As a matter of fact, for example, the former head of the China Food and Drug Administration, Mr. Zheng, was actually executed for violating rules and laws in terms of issuing licenses for producing drugs. And more recently, for example, high-ranking officials in NDRC's pricing bureau have also been investigated for violations and crimes. And as a result, I would say the pricing of drugs is a very sensitive issue, and sometimes it can be very controversial. In this particular case, I think the government authorities did the right thing because it went into the details of the violations by these 5 domestic companies producing drugs. And what they tend to do is to control the pricing of the drugs they produce by forming kind of a monopolistic operations in these drugs. And I think what at stake is the fundamental legitimate interests and the rights of the consumers, who are mostly the patients who need to use the drugs. And they have no other option. They have to be forced to pay exorbitantly high prices for the drugs. And also related to this problem, some of the hospitals or the doctors administering the drugs have also been involved in these scandals by prescribing more drugs than what the patients will need, or higherly price the drugs than what the patients will need. So I would say that this probably will not be an isolated incident. This probably just exposed the tip of the iceberg in the pricing of the drugs in China, involving not only domestic drug companies, but also foreign, international, big houses producing drugs. We know there was a major multinational drug company which had been penalized for similar offenses, and this time the focus is on domestic companies in important cities like Shanghai and Chongqing. Hopefully the government authorities, the law enforcement authorities will go to the hilt in exposing and disciplining and punishing these violations, so that eventually there will be greater transparency and equity in the pricing of the drugs. So eventually the patients and the consumers in China will get a fair dealing and fair play when they need to pay for the drugs.